Hi, here's the start screen in After Effects, Adobe After Effects CC. We'll be dealing with the Mac OS today, and you should see this on startup. We'll be dealing with mainly the top menus and the timeline below. In the top menu you'll see the composition menu. We're going to click on that and go new composition, or alternatively Command N. Set your composition to these specifications for the example's sake, or if you want to make your own, feel free to do so. If you've typed in the specs above mentioned, you should get this screen here. Okay, so we're going to make a new solid. So on the top menu you'll see the layer menu there. Go new and then solid, or Command Y. You'll get a little pop-up box, same with the composition settings box, but this one's for the solid layer. Just make it the same as before. And your solid layer should appear on the timeline below. Make sure your playhead's at the start of the composition. With your solid layer selected, we're going to go into the top menu, Effect, Noise and Grain, Turbulent Noise. On the main screen you should see this. With your layer selected and the playhead at the beginning, double click on the ellipse icon at the top left of your screen. You should see roughly this. Now, on the main preview screen, there should be a red circle around our shape we've just made. So double click on that. Now what you want to do is hold Command and drag the side edges inwards so it's more spherical rather than ellipse. Okay, now release your click on that and hold down Shift and drag until it's roughly this size. Click on your timeline layer below. Little drop down arrows next to the layer's name will reveal mask options, so set the feather to about 50. Under the same layer, we're going to click on the effects menu and select our turbulent noise. Under our turbulent noise options, we're going to set the fractal type to dynamic twist. And in the same menu set, we're going to set the noise type to spline. Same effects menu again, set the contrast to roughly 300. Same effects menu, click on the little stopwatch next to evolution to start animating. Make sure you're at the beginning of the composition. About 7 frames in, set the degrees to 142. Move the playhead to 7 frames just before the 5-second mark. And again, click on that blue diamond to make a keyframe here. Under your evolution settings, set the evolution to 9 times. And staying at the same keyframe, set the degrees to 131. And make sure the playhead's at the 5-second mark. Click on the little blue diamond to make another keyframe. Playhead at the 5-second mark, make the evolution 10 times and set the degrees to 0. Using the little blue diamond again on the left, make a keyframe 7 frames after 5 seconds. At this point, you'll want to set another keyframe using the blue diamond, set the evolution to 9 times. And of course set the degrees to 184. Using the little blue diamond again, make another keyframe 7 frames out from the end of the composition. Here you'll want to set the evolution to 0 times. And here also set the degrees to 146. Using that little blue diamond again, make a keyframe right at the end of the composition. Here you'll want to set the degrees to 0. And the evolution times to 0 as well. At the end keyframe, right click on it and go Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease. Do the same for the keyframe at 5 seconds. And again the same, right click, Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease on the very first keyframe. To close a layer's options, there's a little drop down arrow next to the name of the layer itself. To open the layer's options again, use that same little arrow, just click it again. Okay, so far you should see something like this. Okay, just make sure your layer is selected. To duplicate it, hit Command D. To rename a layer, click on the layer's name, hit enter, type your new name and then hit enter again. You should see this. With your newest layer selected, hit the M key, M for mummy, twice and it should bring up mask options. To select the mask, click on the mask name, in this case, mask 1. To duplicate this mask, select the mask and hit Command D. Under mask 2, the little drop down arrow should bring up options. Select your feather at 150. Now click on mask 2, make sure it's selected. In your preview screen, double click on the ridge edge of mask 2. Hold Command and Shift and drag the corner of the grey box to make it slightly larger than mask 1. Now click on the base layer to select it. And hit Command D to duplicate this layer. To rename this layer or any layer, click on the layer's name, hit enter, type in the name you want and hit enter again. Quick tip, to make a layer visible or invisible, there is a eye-shaped icon on the far left of the layer's name. Click it on and off to make the layer invisible or visible as desired. With your newest layer selected, hit the Effects menu on the top menu bar, go Generate and Gradient Ramp. After that, you should see this. With your layer selected, under the Gradient Ramp settings, set your ramp shape to Radial Ramp. On your main preview screen, drag the small circular crosshairs to the outside and the middle of the mask boundary. With your layer selected, drag it to the very top so it's first on the timeline. If it's not so already, make sure the white is in the middle of your gradient ramp and the black on the outside. Start of the timeline, gradient ramp settings. At the start and end color options, click the stopwatch to start animating them. With the same start and end colors, make new keyframes at 2.5 seconds and swap the colors. Repeat this process, but in reverse, from 7.5 seconds to the end of the timeline. You should see something like this. With your top layer selected and the playhead at the start of the timeline, click on the Effects menu right at the top, go to Color Correction and then Hue and Saturation. In the Effects menu on the left, click on Hue and Saturation and hit the tick box that says Colorize. Under the Colorize options, make the color hue 331 degrees. And also under this, set the Colorize Saturation to 40. You should see something similar to this. Now, on the bottom of the timeline, you should see a Toggle Switches/Modes button. Hit that. The timeline will slightly change, but that's okay. It'll show you the blend modes of all the layers. Now make sure your top layer is selected. Click on the modes drop-down box and select the overlay option. You should see something like this. Make sure your newest layer is selected. Hit Command D to duplicate and make sure this layer is on top so you can drag this layer up and down to suit. Click on the newest layer's name, hit enter, type your new name and then hit enter again to confirm. You should be seeing something like this. With the newest layer selected, under the turbulent noise options, make your fractal type strings. In the same effects menu, drag your turbulent noise effect below your gradient ramp effect. That'll change the look slightly, and you should be seeing this. Same layer selected, the effects menu, hue and saturation. Select the colorize hue and make it -71 degrees. Under the top bar layer menu, we're going to make a new adjustment layer. To rename it what you like, click on the layer's name, hit enter, type the name and confirm with enter again. With this new adjustment layer selected, hit Effects on the top bar menu, Blur and Sharpen and Radial Blur. At the moment you should see something like this. With the same layer selected, under the Effects menu on the left, select your Radial Blur type to Zoom. And set your blur amount to roughly 15. And at this point it pays to have your anti-aliasing quality at high. And we're going to go to the top menu again under Layer, New and Adjustment Layer again. We're going to rename it, click on the name, hit enter, type the name and hit enter again to confirm. With the layer selected, we're going to go to the top bar menu, Effects, Distort and Turbulent Displace. With the playhead set at the start, we're going to go under the Turbulent Displace Effects menu and click on the stopwatch next to the amount. At this starting point, we're going to set the amount to 0. Seven frames from the start, we're going to set the amount to 25. At the 1 second mark, we're going to set the amount value to 100. At the 2 second mark, we're going to hit the amount value at 50. Just an alternate view here. At the 3 second mark, we're going to set the value to 80. 4 seconds in, we are going to set the value to 50. And that sweet spot, 7 frames before the 5 second mark, we're going to set the value to 80 again. And at the 5 second mark on the timeline, we're going to set the value to 100. So for the second half of the timeline, all the way to the end, reverse this process so the keyframes are effectively looping. You should see something similar to this. With the playhead at the end of the timeline, right click on the last keyframe, Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease. The same thing for the keyframe at the 5 second mark, right click on it, Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease. And the same for the keyframe at the very start of the timeline. Okay, next we're going to add an adjustment layer. So on the top menu, Layer, New Adjustment Layer. To rename it, again, we're going to click on the layer's name, hit enter, type the name, and hit enter again to confirm. With the new layer selected, go to the top effects menu, Distort and Bulge. You should see something like this, little grey circle with dots on the outside right in the middle. It is important to note that the little grey squares on the outside of the circle, take note of them. Okay, drag one of those small squares to enlarge this effect. Continue to drag one of these squares to the very edge of the orb so they're the same size. To create a similar look, you could always go to the effects menu instead, select Distort and the Spherize effect. Here are both effect settings here. For this example, under Spherize, I just used the value 600. You should be seeing something like this. Feel free to experiment with effects. For this example, this is what Spherize and Bulge looks like. Okay, at this stage you have yourself an Energy Orb. And remember, experimentation is key. Make this thing your own.